My name is Tshabalala. I am the Chief Executive of the Standard Bank Group, which is the largest financial institution on the African continent, measured by assets. And I have the privilege of being the chairman of the Finance and Infrastructure Taskforce of the B20. Unlocking finance is critical for Africa's transition and competitiveness for a number of reasons. First of all, roughly 600 million people on the African continent do not have access to power, to the grid. To build the grid, you need a whole slew of infrastructure, which includes roads, bridges, and so forth. Our investment bank at Standard Bank calculates that we need roughly $3.4 trillion in the next 10 to 20 years to build that infrastructure. And in building that infrastructure, we have to make sure that it takes account of the single biggest issue facing humanity at the moment, which is the fact that we have more than 50% more CO2 than the pre-industrial era. That has resulted in pestilence, in floods, and therefore makes it necessary for the world to transition. We need to mitigate against this environmental degradation, and at the same time, we need to make sure that there's an adaptation. We need to build fit-for-purpose bridges, roads, and infrastructure. All of that requires funding, and it requires financing. The African continent does not have sufficient funds from our own savings for that purpose. And we therefore have to mobilize society's resources on the continent and global resources for that purpose. Africa will shape global finance because this is the African century. Africans are getting healthier, wealthier, more productive. For the purposes of enjoying the demographic dividend, we need to build the infrastructure that would support the benefiting from that demographic dividend. And therefore, Africa itself needs to take the lead in raising the financing for that purpose through our own savings, but we also have to make it attractive for our partners, whether they be development finance institutions, multilateral development finance institutions, and also philanthropies, banks, insurance companies. We as Africans need to make it attractive for them to mobilize their society's resources for investment on the continent, and we need to make sure that that investment adequately rewards them for their risks, for the risks that they take on the African continent. Now, as chair of the task force, it is humbling, it is exciting to try and aim for those high ideals as summarized in the G20 theme of solidarity, equality, and sustainability, and make that real by recycling funds for the purposes of infrastructure on the continent. It's a real privilege.